Why should we wait at home?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah. So what that means is, we're gonna run this meeting just like a regular board meeting, so we use Robert's rules of order. So if you're not familiar with that, feel free to ask a question, otherwise, I'll proceed that, and if I miss out, Marcia will correct me, I'm sure, so she does more of this than I do, so, I serve on several boards, so I'm very familiar with this process, so, hopefully I can help our code, resolve its issues and improve our quality of life and, our own home. So, so first on the agenda, number 2, you got everything on the agenda?
I did not present copies of the agenda, it's the board approves the agenda, or the board approves the minutes.
Oh,
They have copies of the agenda, but not.
oh, okay. So the minutes are, basically the minutes that came out of our November meeting, which all of you have seen. So that was the first meeting of the Cove committee, which started in November of last year. And it was kind of a working group meeting where we identified issues and assigned issue leads. And that was published to all of you. So at this point, I'd like to make a motion to approve the November 2022 meeting minutes. Second. Any discussion, changes? Oh, okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Okay, motion carries unanimously.
Okay. As an aside, my process in running this committee, and I mentioned that at the November meeting, is that I appreciate all of you, despite being allegedly retired or not working as much, that your time is valuable. So what I've tried to do is work directly with the issue leads that were assigned and the staff, as well as the board members directly that were involved and Marcia and Gerson. So that's been effective when I developed the board report, there have been 2 quarterly reports as a result of discussions. But it makes sense from a transparency standpoint to have all this information more available for all of you to see, and for any of you to provide any other input to the quarterly board reports. So there's a September report that is a board meeting. So after this discussion and any other things that come up, I'll draft that report and get it out to the committee for discussion and any changes that they have, and then that'll be presented at the board meeting. I'm not going to be at the meeting in October. Susan and I finally going to wait for certification. Yes. So Marcia could present that, or Ken or one of the committee members can present that as well. So it's kind of up to you. So so with that, the next item on the agenda then is the WCAD Joint Committee Projects. Okay, so I just left the current WCAD 2 board meeting. So I requested a couple of things. We have 2 open issues that were included in the meeting minutes that the code has. One is the trail extension, privacy and security issues on the south side, and the privacy issues that are on the north side of Mendocino. As they removed isolated trees, it kind of opened up that whole view for people looking on the north side. So very covered his neighbors kind of see into people's backyards, including all the kids' pools and all the goings on out there. So there was an executive committee meeting of the WCID executive session in October of last year, 22, and they agreed that they would provide screening if there was a line of sight issue with a trail or person's homes. So I kind of reminded them of that. I've been in communication with emails and sometimes talking on the phone with Samantha Becky, who's the president of the board of WCAD 2. So she suggested I come to the meeting tonight, and in the public forum, I kind of presented So I asked that they provide tree screenings and privacy, both on the south side of the trail extension and the north side of people's homes where trees have been removed for ice damage and other issues. I told them I thought about 10 trees would be okay, but that they would have to come out themselves to see how many they really needed. But we paid about $500 to have a tree installed in our front lawn because of the ice damage. So I said, so I'm guessing 5,000 or less. I'm sure with the economies of scale, Sunscape or whoever contract you're using can get you a better price. All those areas are irrigated, so that should take care of that issue for them. So by their executive session notes, I feel that we're okay. I'll email Samantha in a day or two and kind of ask her where things stood after the discussion today. But
Will they publish those minutes from that meeting? And I have been looking at them diligently every month to see how it all went at the meeting. And a lot of times the meeting has been posted yet, so I have a person at their offices that I contact and say, when are the minutes going to be posted? She's like, oh, that should have already been done. And so she'll bug somebody and next thing you know, they're out there getting posted, but yeah, I have to just stay on and see their minutes, and that's where you see all of what they discuss.
so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I don't know how, Marcia does a great job with the board, a day or two after, the board meeting, they're published, they're on the site. But yeah, I'll do that.
As their,
If I don't get back to the follow-up, it's bugging me out.
you can go to their website and find the minutes on the website anytime you want. It has them listed as, there's 2 different categories. You just click on it, and there it's all, everything they did on that meeting, how it went, everything.
Yeah, because they're elected officials, it's all public information, so that we all have access to that, so that's great. So, yeah. If anyone wants to do this, just, it's hayeswcid.org is their website. So any of you are free to go on that. It publishes anything from the stage through the restrictions, anything that you need to focus on that site. So you can always go there. So, okay. So any questions on my pitch to the board, their board?
No, Jim, when I'm talking, I think the goal is to, and they had mentioned it also, right, making their budget to include the expense in their budget. Not necessarily ours, but it's their budget. That would be the optimum thing is to have their budget pay for all trees and stuff, the large street, but that we have in reserve. So I think that when those minutes get published, first thing I'm going for, is they establish the budget and how much do they allot? Or are they going to contact? A lot of times they just contact the Sundance guys, get a quote, and I said, the quote they may not happen until the next. Where they decide what's going to happen, it's just their process. It's sort of thing. They discuss it, vote on it. They go out and get a bid, and then it's back and they vote on it. That can take 2 months before that comes through.
Yep. So let's just get back right there. Could look at that and look at yours first. Let me know or let Jeff know. Marcia and say, his minutes are there. So because Samantha's been very responsive. I can't tell you, after it took forever to get ice damage trees and debris. But there was a priority list. They had to take care of Hayes County property first, which was the 100 acres that was south of Minnesota. So you probably heard for weeks, grinding and cutting and whatnot. Once they got that done, they probably got our area. And Marcia's going to talk later about the retreat area, high grass area. She's going to comment on that with those countries as well. So it just takes, it's like the government. It just takes a while for these groups to respond. And luckily there were no fires or anything. Now standing July 4th fireworks with the tree. But I think we're kind of hopeful that stays clear. And from what I understand from several of you, you also have a lot of tree stumps and excess trees removed by the contractors as well, because They really agree with your line of sight, so there were a whole bunch of benefits to that contract and a little bit of stuff. He certainly took care of stuff behind my ear that, you know, and I look down the way as I walk out of Greenbelt. And everything looks pretty clean, so I think that that's worked out well. So I'm kind of hoping that we'll take care of the tree very well. And then we're just gonna have to bug them periodically if there are any other issues, but, one of Steve's issues was to remove, you know, dead down trees, which are fire issues, and that's been resolved too now. So I think, you know, it's taken a while, and I certainly appreciate it, but I should have. So I really appreciate your patience, and having all this stuff done. That is not as fast as you like it, yeah, so. Sure. Well,
You talk about the trees and the number of trees, do you have a plot plan for where the trees are around the different places? I mean, I don't understand what.
Sarah was kind enough to develop some maps of that area on the south
So
side.
on the south side.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had look at the north side, or the south side, to make sure that they.
Right.
Put them in the right spots.
Oh, yeah, no, when you say,
So
I'm just curious if you've already plotted out where they're gonna go.
No.
I can, hey, real fast, I don't know if y'all can hear me, but I can go in there to Google Earth and I can actually do it exactly. And I can do it by the inch if you need it. What's that?
So, what we'll do is, Charter, who is vacation campaign right now, we're hoping to explore. And one of his issues was, privacy issues on the north side. So, I think, yeah, working maybe when Larry gets back in this next week, if he and maybe Sarah could get together and kind of generally walk an area along that part to see where trees could be planted, but they did move a bunch of trees in that area.
My question would be, even though, you know, say as Cove people, we might want trees in a certain place, do we really have any say as to where they would go? Because it is WCID's
Their property.
I mean, and they might try to accommodate us to keep us happy, but really, I don't see that we have a leg to stand.
Yeah, it turned out in their executive session, they said that, yeah, you can request meeting from a line of sight privacy. So that's what they said that you could do. So I'm not talking about hundreds of trees, but there are on the north side, blocked area, there are trees there now, but every now and then there's some big gaps, and the idea is to fill the gaps, so that's kind of.
But that's where I was questioning with this, I'd like to know where you're putting them, because maybe one will be beneficial to us too. What's on the south side?
Yeah.
I had to make it there, block, right? The bushy tree
On the north side.
maybe this plant all the cedar on the west.
Maybe like oaks, and there are a lot of oaks that grow 15, 20 feet and broad, so that would be a line of sight privacy.
Yeah, that's what I meant, I'm talking about, Mr. North.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're line that for bush of some sort, because it's low.
Yeah.
Because the line of sight goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like they were talking about the kids in the pools and all that, and we have a clear shot to. Listen to them.
But they've got arborists on, they've got contractors, that's the job, so somebody's got to look, we can rely on them to pick the right tree. We can have that discussion if they promise that,
Yeah, I just want to know before they make their final decision.
yeah, oh, for sure, yeah.
Well, that would be a topic of discussion with them is how willing are they to communicate what they're thinking and doing before they do it.
Yeah,
I mean, the concrete bridge was just about done before. We saw them digging and getting ready, but then we didn't realize how extensive it was going to be. They had to alter it. middle of it. So yeah, them working with us, or at least communicating us, like come out and, you know, whether we all meet somebody from their organization and express our views. This is what we prefer the tree line to be at, you know, instead of, like I said, in the past, they just do it, they don't talk to you about it.
Right, they take a living out there. Yeah, that's, yeah, Samantha, was, most of, in fact, all the board, they're looking at that Belterra, so yeah, it's very easy.
Hey,
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all can hear me, but a quick conversation with any governing entity with the people who live in a place should actually be done all the time. This is between Marcia and this whole HOA committee. I just want to say, in my opinion, it's very poorly planned. They really should have talked to us. They could have avoided a lot of stuff because I have an alternative to that path, and it would have saved them tons of money, and it would have just been a win-win for everybody. So when they walk these trails and they make these decisions, they don't do it with 3 people, they do it with 2. So you should always, number one, always have an odd number. So that's all I gotta say. I'm listening to y'all. Keep going.
Just to be clear, the HOA has absolutely nothing to do with what WCID does, absolutely nothing, they don't.
Oh, I know, Marcia. I completely know. Yes, absolutely, for sure.
But,
Yes.
Thank you.
I think, you know, again, you know, Samantha's been pretty responsive, like, yeah, so I'm gonna kind of expect, as Jeff said, look at the minutes and then go from there, but also have a lot of communication with her. Kathy, that,
Yeah, if anybody's can't hear me, I'll try to speak up, Say, rolling out of lawsuit with the WCID meeting, we went not only because the trail, they're winding up the Mockingbird Trail, which for many of you may or may not know, was kind of contentious at one point because they wanted to do an extension that went directly behind the fence lines within a few feet of the Cove houses on that side of Mendocino. And we organized, and I appreciate everybody that came and participated in that. I felt it went on for many months, but we got the result we wanted. One, because we felt like it was going to be an intervention into the security that we all pay for the gates and the privacy behind our fences and whatnot. But I also just wanted to thank WCID because having like Jim, having been on a lot of people, too many times people don't show up to talk about their appreciations for the evidence that board members put into things. Like I said, it got very contentious, but they always listen. Samantha Becca, Sean McGillicuddy, Mr. Kelly, they were all on the board at the time. Several new board members have come on. But I want to let them know that we appreciated the consideration they gave us and the decision that they ultimately made to keep that trail from going right behind our homes. But we did also speak up on behalf of the 4 homes that are right at the end of the big green belt side of Mendocino, right next to the service area. We have 4 homeowners that live that are going to be more in the sideline of the trail that comes down from the Mockingbird Trail of the Pinnacle and then comes down behind the retention pond. I was concerned then, and I'm still concerned that there's no screening that has gone up yet. But with that said, I understand as I've been told by talking to several people there that you know, the weather was prohibited them to put some new vegetation out there between the drought that we've been going through and the harvesting that we've had would have been not very productive. So I understand why they have waited. They told us all along from day one with the whole trail plan that they were going to include some vegetation screening or whatnot in areas that are concerned. And I held into that, and I called and continued to fight. I'm meeting with people up in Pinnacle all the time. I have a connection list with more than 258 homes in this community that were affected by the trail. And I'm not planning to give up on it, and I encourage them again tonight, especially those 4 homes that are at most, you know, exposed to the trail, even though it is on the other side of the retention pond. That they please keep in consideration of putting some vegetation out there And I really feel like they're in the hole with that it was in that $487,000 budget. That was, no, part of that trail, the Mockingbird Trail was actually established to be built. It was the last new trail that was written, the original development of the community. So they had funds that were earmarked that came from $750 from each home in this community had to go into that earmarked fund for new trail development. When it came time to doing the last trail, which was named Mockingbird Trail, they had just under $500,000 in their total budget to design the trail, which is pretty extensive. And some of you may be engineers, Roland's been in the engineering business for over 50 years. It's a big project designing the trail of that size.
I think the dam for the bridge was dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean,
Try to develop alternative routes. We had to deal with TCEQ. We developed relationships.
I think it was something part of that, the bridge.
Well,
We talked about that, and
oh, I
fell on that here.
specifically,
You would have hit that, sleep. So,
I said to countless WCID meetings, I said to countless TCEQ meetings, I said to countless Hayes County development meetings. Roland and I both did. We spent hours upon hours. I have a conference with maps and communication between all of us. And you reach a point where you just have to come to compromise on things. And we feel like the compromise didn't satisfy everybody. It never will. These organizations, Jim was right, they're an elected board, they're also a political board. So their budget constraints and whatnot are very closely guarded, just like our HOA works off of a budget that's based on their nonprofit. They're even more restricted. So I was really kind of sad that we didn't have more people up there because they're also initiating the setting of the tax rate. And that's another reason why we went. So it's sad when Jim, Roland and I, 2 other people, I think when the gym, a lady, excuse me, you visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's gone. This
Oh, no, I'm not in any way shaming you guys, because you didn't go.
But I think going forward, I think keeping on top of it, just, bugging the crap out of them on a regular basis is what we do.
But I will say this, I would just like to add that having been through that for a total of, what was it, 14 months. And Ron and Sue, you guys were everybody was so helpful through that whole process. We have a really good participation rate. I wish we had had as many people come to HOA meetings and WCID meetings as what we had at our trail meetings. Because we had really good participation, and not just from the code. I worked very aggressively. We created a group of people that walked this entire community. Because my thinkings were not only is this trail going to affect those of us on the code, but that trail was a public trail that would have been put through our private park. And that park is primarily used by young children. We've been up there before when there were young children unsupervised. So I said, I don't want to do anything that's going to invite outsiders. All of the trails are public trails. I don't know if you know that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that you know that, Martha. They're all public trails. And most all of these things at one time were under the ownership of Belterra Community Association. But there was a period of years where those were transferred over to WCID. And it could, I'm sure it was all for good reason. A lot of it, it's a lot of life, a lot of responsibility, keeping up with all these trails and maintaining them. But I just wanted to say that I did speak to WCID and urge them at least to do what they can for those homes that are over there by the retaining pond in the code. Now, what I've been told many, go back to 2007, Roland and I went first lived here in the home along my lane in 2007. So I've been dealing with WCID for a long time. I was dealing with HOA, which was, Marcia knows how that system works. It wasn't even a community run HOA yet, because you have to have a certain amount of build out before you can do that. And I was dealing with them way back then for years and years and years. And there is a real commitment, like it or not, on the part of WCID to keep all of our preserves, all of our green belts as natural as possible. If it's a common area along the streets where the kids walk and the community comes in, and we need to protect the value of our property. So when people come into this community, and what they first see is gonna make them say, wow, I wanna live here, or ooh, I wanna live here.
I mean, it would behoove us and to all of us attend the water board meetings every month to discuss their minutes that they posted,
Absolutely.
okay? And be able to have a voice every time they have a meeting, that anything we need to discuss that came from the meetings, because that's really the only thing you'll see any result of is in their minutes.
But,
Because they can't talk to you about it until that day.
so let's do this going forward, because we've got a lot of it. Yeah.
But if I could just close, Ron knows, I know one final point on one day, look, I appreciate, like you were saying about, is it really realistic? I've come through your budgets going back to 2007, so I know how we work. And I know they'll listen to you, and I appreciate you going up there and asking like you did, never hurts to ask, okay? But it's, I've just learned, there's only so much they can do. And they really try and strive to keep the green belts as natural as possible, and there are countless people throughout this community that lost trees in the green belts behind their homes due to the ice storm, the snowstorm, and now the drought. So I want us to keep asking for what we can get, but I just want everybody to be realistic and understand that they get a lot more requests than what they have money. And they can also go up on our taxes, but have no look how to pay that.
So let's do this, Jeff, and Kathy, you said, so let's see the minutes and let's follow up, and as Kathy said, you get a bunch of people going up there, at the next board meeting, I'm not sure what it is, published, it's public information. And we'll see what we can do. The intent is to say, hey, we're here, we would like this taken care of, especially if there are other funds available. So
I'm going to some of those meetings, and that's all on, I think they said there was something in the budget for screening.
yeah,
Yes, there's no thing.
so yes, let's follow up and just,
Right.
automatic. See what we can.
But I appreciate you being there, like I said, it never hurts to ask.
Sure. Okay, one of the issues that came up next agenda, it was because of the changing responsibilities and entities involved in and around the Cove. A lot of questions, and Kathy had done a lot to help follow and cover this in Helen. Who owned what, who was liable for what, and the like. So I put together kind of a responsibility matrix, a draft, and I sent it to Marcia. We did it with the board, and they said, yeah, work on this. So I think we're at a point where it's pretty close to being published. It doesn't need to be approved by the board because it's kind of, it is what it is. But Marcia is going to kind of talk you through the website and what we have today. So it's, it includes, Marcia expanded it, that's Cove, but to all of Belterra. On the website previously, it was a rather simple 4-line summary of who owned what, who's responsible for what, but this is a lot greater than that, and Marcia can make it look pretty for the website. But the idea was to say, someone has a question, either coming to the Cove buyout, or just coming into Belterra to know, who picks up the garbage, who's responsible for doing it, whatever those things are, that would be documented, and we have all documentation of all of this information. So with that, maybe Marcia could
Sure.
show.
So just, some screenshots from the website, so you guys know where to find this, because it is published on the website. So, this is literally just a screenshot of it. So you go under resident services and then about Belterra.
which I've worked to kind of expand this section, so if you've not been on the website in a while, definitely go in, kind of look on some things, some additional information, but for our purposes tonight, I want to let you guys know where the link to this document is. So then you'll click on who does what in Belterra. So pretty simple question, right? Not complicated. In 16 years of being a community association manager, this is the most convoluted and confusing community I have ever managed. So your congratulations. It's not even me. And then you'll click on this little link right there. Here for Belterra responsibility chart. So who does what? There's some other things you can see like a graphic there, and then there's a map below. But again, like I said, we're going to focus on this for our purposes. Then when you open it up, it's going to open up a Google Sheets document. Now the reason for this and it not being a PDF is this is a living, breathing document. As we learn new things, as maybe something changes, we can go in and change it right here. So anytime you open it up, those changes will have taken place. And then it's not in the screenshot here, but in the upper right hand corner, you'll see an update date. So if you look at it and go, oops, the last update date I saw said August 24th. This says December 13th. Sweet, there's an update made to it. So just, and like Jim said, this is inclusive of everything, retreats and stuff, a splash pad, who does what, who has the liability there. Right now it's got kind of some basic vendor information and what they do. So take a moment, peruse it. If you have any questions, definitely let us know. But for tonight's purposes, I wanted to talk specifically about the code. What does this responsibility matrix show? So within the code bubble, let's call it, you've got walls, there's masonry walls. Well, who maintains those? Who owns those? So officially, the code is not an incorporated entity. So you are a service area, what we call it in the industry, or a benefited parcel of the Belterra Community Association, meaning you have certain amenities that are exclusive to you. So you are responsibility for funding them. So you being the 43 homeowners. So given that you're not a legal entity, you can't legally own anything, right? So you're not a real entity, you're not a real person, you can't own things. So that's where the Belterra Community Association comes in. They're the entity that owns it. So you see the walls, BCA owns it, but the code maintains it, because those retaining walls that come up and the gates attached to, you guys exclusively benefit from those walls. So therefore you're responsible for maintaining them. Makes sense, right? The road, this is where it gets a little goofy. WCID owns the road, WCID2 owns the road. So when I found that, I thought, well, wait a second, because I never liked the answer, well, that's just because it's the way it's been. No, tell me why, show me why. So went through digging to figure out why are we, when I say we, when I'm with you guys, I'm talking about the code, because I take personal ownership over things. Why does WCID own it? Why do we pay to maintain it? So digging through the supplemental declaration for the code, because in order for the code to have a separate assessment of that, there needs to be a document that states and acknowledges that. Well, in that document, it acknowledges that WCID2 owns the road, but the code owners are responsible for maintaining it, as you are the gates and anything that you maintain. So that supplemental declaration is also under the governing documents on the website. So if you're curious or need a good night's sleep, you can curl up with that with a glass of wine and read that. So speaking of the gates, anything to do with the gates, so the physical gates, the operators, the little decorative pieces on the gates, which we're working on getting new ones because those are all damaged and falling. So FYI here. The call box, the access system that operates the call box, all of that is the gates inclusive. So again, you're not a legal entity, you can't own anything, so Belterra Community Association owns it, but the code assessments pay to maintain it. Mailboxes, here's another fun one. Can you believe I found a little graphic of outstanding mailboxes? I mean, PCA owns the boxes and maintains the actual metal. You know, on it, it's metal. That's Belterra Community Association. WCID owns and maintains the masonry and the covers. And believe it or not, there's like a 6-page document that's a lease agreement between Belterra Community Association and the WCIDs with regard to those mailboxes. See,
So they put the lights in it?
yes.
So who makes that?
Yeah, so whenever there's something, I sit back and go, let's think this through, who owns that, who's responsible for what? And so it was really fun when MOC took over from Informark, because of course Informark kind of knew all of this, and so MOC was me a year ago, going big twice. So yes, once you figure it all out, it starts to kind of make sense. And then the trails and the green belts, WCID2 owns and maintains all of that. So you know, when you're cruising on the casino, and you see those little open spots in between homes where we get those people walking in and getting trapped in the little slices, that are little tide slices, those are owned by WCID also. Those are not owned by Belterra Community Association. So there's very, very, very little open space or grass or green belt that's actually owned by the Belterra Community Association. The 9 acres that this sits on, and then the retreat at San Saba is what the Belterra Community Association owns and maintains. So in case any of y'all didn't know that, it's kind of fun. So you see sprinkling going on, the watering, and you're mad because we can't water our yards. That's WCI, and it's all in mind for that.
Just do it in the morning, not 4 o'clock.
But okay, something I've heard in this industry is when you have run times on irrigation clock, you know, just like any home, your front yard runs and then your backyard runs, or that long. I have managed communities where it takes 32 hours to run through, so you have to run, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Exactly.
Hey, can I ask a quick question?
You betcha.
So when evaluating budgets and stuff, the one thing I like to look at is how long a wall, a road, a gate, a mailbox trail, which by the way, this is awesome. What the lifespan is on them. I looked at the big trail that's going between San Antonio and Austin, and it's hidden really deep, but they tell you the average life of certain things. So when y'all get to budget talking real fast, I'm curious about why we have so much darn money in there. And this is just, I'm just throwing this out there and then I'm going to mute myself again. Is there a way to put some of the funds we have into an interest bearing account? We used to when I was on Crime Stoppers, we separated some of the money because we knew, for instance, we weren't going to need that $10,000 for another 5 years. So that's
Sarah, we're gonna cover all that in the financial study. That's a good question. And the good news is, the quick answer is yes.
Yes, Sarah, if you'd like to moonlight as an HOA manager, just throw us right on track.
Don't say that.
Don't say that. Yes, we will get to that, and to answer, yes, the Jim's right, the short answer is yes, we have a reserve study, we'll talk about that in just a little bit.
okay. I'll be quiet now.
You got anything else?
No, nothing else on this, no.
So therefore, you know, we think we've got all this locked down. So the thought is that, you know, I sent out a version of this, unless Marcia makes some other edits, is we'll get another version out to all the Cove residents, and then she's gonna, as she said, post this on the website.
It's already on.
Oh, is that? Oh,
That's what I was showing you how to get it to. It's already there.
So, so yeah, there were some notes, that I was asking you to clarify that. So yeah, if you could send me that Excel file, that'd be great.
Yeah, well, that's what's linked is.
Oh, that is,
this document.
okay. So all of you can do that, I'll maybe send a note out after this meeting, summarizing the WCA meeting as well as. This meeting's kind of, so I'll try to do that after this meeting, so, before we do the gates, I'd ask Ken to kind of give us a quick summary of the gate decisions and where we're headed, just in case versus wood. Just in case something happens, so, yeah, okay.
Here's a short synopsis on gates. In my opinion, consider put in lower end, lower quality gates. Because Marcia has told me, or maybe the gate doctor told me this, that the gates should last roughly 15 years. 15 to 20 is what I was told.
And when he says gates, he uses operators.
Right, and the operators are the boxes that actually are connected to the gates that open. The gates themselves are fine, okay, but the operator has some problem. Now, knock on wood, gates have been operating since the last time gate doctors have been out here, 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so. But The bottom line is, the guy, Paul Gooch, the guy that was, working on the gates prior to the gate doctors, without slamming him, without him here to defend himself, I don't think, was doing a real good job, okay, so that's behind us. Gate doctors have been very, very responsive, okay? They work on several gates, it's not like you call them and they're out at 8 o'clock the next morning, okay? But usually within a couple of days, they text me, I guess they text you too, and they say, Mike, I'm coming out, tomorrow, 2 o'clock or whatever. So that's the group, Gate Doctors is the group that we have the contract with. What is it called?
Preventative
Preventative maintenance contract, okay? So I think right now, since the gates are operating, okay, we're good. It took way too long to get to this point. I know that. And I know you don't want to hear me or have an email from me saying, be patient. I know that. I know that. I don't care, okay? And perhaps I don't put as much emphasis on the gates as other people do. Some people gotta have a gate, and my attitude is, we're paying for the gates, they should operate, yes, I know that. And yes, it's taking way too long to get here, I got it, okay? But hopefully, I think the next step, if these crap out, which they will, okay? The next step is replacing the controllers, the operators. And I've talked to, I don't know if it's Mike or David at Gate Doctors, and they've said that they don't install these particular operators. They do, it is where better. And when you can argue over.
There's some really great catalog.
But, and Marcia has told me there are other operators out there and key punch things and that are significantly better than what we have. And the theory is that they're better, then that'll last long. Well, we'll see. But that's the long-winded version of those damn gates and.
Why did it take 12 weeks to get them fixed?
Don't know.
No, why did it?
Part of it was, we told me, part of it was, they did not get the right paperwork, COI, to, Marshall. And for those of you that don't know what a COI is, it's a certificate of insurance. Marshall's job, I'm not speaking to you, forgive me, but her job is to, if anybody who's worked on a Belterra property, you guys show that you have insurance. As an old insurance agent, I know exactly what a COI is. It is a document from an insurance company indicating that this company, Gate Doctors, has insurance. And I had clients myself that would call me at the last minute. I need a COI, I need a COI. Okay, well, I can't do it right now, but whatever, but I can do it this afternoon. Okay. Well, the guy that I spoke to, Gate Doctors, admitted that he had not gotten, he hadn't gotten paid for a previous job or something like that. And then he quickly said, oh, but we haven't got the proper paperwork to Marshall. So 12 weeks, I don't know. I don't know. And I didn't think about this.
Yes,
Ken personally took a Philippine vacation to Europe. Yeah, this is right now.
You shouldn't have to wait because one person's not awake.
Well,
You know, we recorded, it's broken, and
yeah,
it's
correct.
open Marcia. And it should get fixed. It shouldn't be 12 weeks that have a broken gate.
Yeah.
Many of us bought here because there is a gate. It gives us a sense of security. There are women here that are single. And that really upset some of them that the gate was open all the time. I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying,
And
it shouldn't take 12 weeks. And we weren't really told what was wrong with it or how much it was gonna cost. That should all go out to the community because we're paying for it. Well,
Let me, you wanna know everything about the gates, before you guys, do you wanna know every single thing, how much it costs, how, when they're gonna be here, everything.
The cost would be,
Yes.
really easy
Yeah,
to
but-
just send
Well,
to
possibly, like, in the case of part of the generator's contract. And so we got agreement that instead of, because Marcia doesn't see the gates open or closed or moving daily, where a lot of us do. I asked all of you, Ken sent an email out too, saying, if any of you notice the gates are not working, please text Ken and he'll, and Marcia. Yeah, he'll contact Dave Esper. So I think we have the process going forward, but as I said, it's getting on board with the new vendor and getting their process.
And I think probably while when you text Ken, I don't want to overstep, you can just text me too, or send me an email. I mean, I know that I would like to thank these guys because they have made huge efforts to try to keep my email inbox reduced a little bit because they can be a lot. But you're 43 homes. If I get 43 emails saying that it's not working, cool, at least everybody knows that they told me. I'd rather be told twice, 3 times than once. That something's down so that we can get moving on it faster. So if Ken takes another one of his ill-advised, little time vacations, then we don't have to worry about it.
One of the questions, irrespective of CAP, are we going forward, are we gonna evaluate some of these contractors? I mean, I saw the way some of these contractors working, I wouldn't hire them in the first place. I mean, just that alone, are we having contracts that are fixed contracts, time and material contracts? However, I mean, all those things make a difference in how much blood they have in the game there, and from all the experience I've seen that any contractor prior to coming in, they don't know what the hell they're doing.
Yes.
And so I was just hoping we would make sure the doctor gates or whatever.
Yeah, we had three bits that went out in the board, those were reviewed, and Marcia sent Ken and I that information. We looked at it too, and then that recommendation, Marcia took to the board for approval, but again,
The board of directors is ultimately, the Belterra Community Association, the ones that they have the onus and the responsibility on them is on them for the management of effectively management of the code. Having the committee now is in these meetings, you guys are not necessarily approving, expenditures or, moving forward with the budget or anything like that. You're approving or endorsing to make a recommendation to the board of directors. You're serving at the pleasure of what this committee is. And they're representing you guys as residents of the code. So if there's an expenditure or, for example, going in with a preventative maintenance contract that the committee is going to be looked upon at the board level to say, what's a view for the code on behalf? What would you guys like to see? Ultimately, the buck stops with them. It's their decision. So if they disagree fundamentally for whatever reason, they're gonna let you guys know that, or say, hey, we don't think you've done your homework fully on this, go back to the drawing board. It's the same with all the other committees that you see advertised for Belterra Community Association. So to your point, like Jim said, there were multiple vendors evaluated for this preventative maintenance contract.
But who evaluated? I mean, it's our money, and that's what I'm asking the question, who's.
Right. So I sent it over to Jim and Ken.
So you guys are evaluating now.
it's not a monster for contract.
It's a year contract, yes. So moving forward, this is part of why I suggested we do this, because moving forward, we're going to have regularly scheduled meetings for the code, and these types of things will be brought before the whole committee. Whoever can come to the meeting, as long as we have a quorum, a majority vote on the particular item. So if we on this meeting, if we were looking at preventative maintenance companies, I would be presenting all 3 to the code committee and saying, which one would you like to ask up to endorse and move up to the board of directors? So it's just the way the structure was happening at that time. It was me just communicating and you guys were having meetings and I wasn't that involved.
No, I'm worried about this past. I'm looking forward
Also,
to what's going forward.
I think in the future, maybe if something is needed for the community, or where the community, all the community to do discussing it and making that decision, not just one or 2 people on the committee. I mean, I think that's what a committee's for,
we've been on it for almost a year now, and we're not getting really any
And that's why,
information.
that's why we're doing this, because I'm taking the minutes, we're gonna post it, and it's really no additional. If you get to know me, I have a little bit of a control freak, problem that most people in my industry do, so like, I would rather, let's make sure we're doing this and we're in the fold, and that's why when I sent everybody the email saying this is what we're going to be doing, I said it's gonna happen 2 to 3 weeks before the board meeting, because now now we know what the code wants, and I can plug it right into the Belterra Community Association board meeting and say, so we can keep it moving, keep things going, keep things, keep that momentum going.
So yeah, let me clarify what I'm trying to do. So, you probably received 10 or 15 emails from me over the last 10 months. And you get an update when anything new happens, whether it's you have a preventive maintenance contractor, I attached information and the price of the contract to those. You get joint committee transition meetings to go from Infomart to MOS. Whether they're board meetings, so I communicated as a committee, as a Cove committee though, we're not gonna canvass all 43 homes for a decision on anything. This committee is duly chartered by the HOA board. So just like with the board, it's a majority vote. If we decide, it's an expensive, if we throw a big block party and there are 9 of us and 5 say yes and 4 say no, we have a block party. So we're not going to go out to the whole community and go to the residents and ask them, should we have a block party? So the committee that's how this committee functions. So, Marcia suggested at the last board meeting to say, well, let's just have a meeting like this, like you're a mini board, and we'll have a regular meeting. So you will hear all the information, and those that come here will hear the issues and the status. I'll put together a draft committee board report, and I'll send it to the committee for their review, and I'll take comments on that. And then, Marcia gives me about 2 weeks, week or two, to get that in and ready for the board, as in all committees do that are on the board. The long range plan, the strategic plan committee meeting, the speed act meeting, all these different committees are in the same boat. So that's how we'll operate moving forward. So, but up to this point, you've certainly seen every information I've been given or decisions made. So I really try to keep everything hidden from you. And as Ken said, I apologize for not being maybe more open with stuff. And I appreciate your patience in waiting for all these issues to be resolved. I think the good news is we're close to having those. So we'll see.
And if any of you would like to take over our position.
Yeah.
To that point, our committee is chartered, and it's, but in the notes in the charter, we put together that we could turn over the 9 seats with 5 a year with new members, and keep 5 years with some kind of institutional members. So yeah, actually in November, December, I probably would send a note asking for any financials who would like to join the committee, or maybe current committees would like to resign, that's okay. I think the maximum is 10.
It's nice to have.
Maximum is 10.
By the way, is a huge community.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
So I think I think we have 9 plus Sarah and Annette. Sarah is a resource. So more is a resource. Jason. But yeah, Jason, yeah, but Sarah and Annette are kind of support. So I have real estate. Margaret, I'll email and then say, what if we did this to the goal? I'm happy to do our home building, so she's really good. So Kathy, yeah.
If I, Marcia, excuse me,
Yes,
if I can make a request, I thought it was helpful on the matrix that you linked the site to the supplemental declaration.
sure.
Okay. And I've already got some questions on this, myself and Jim may have as well. I'm a little bit, conflicted about some of what's up there. So if you could also leave the sites, because I want to clarify for you, are you interpreting the supplemental declaration is what identifies that BCA owns the gates, owns the walls?
It's not necessarily that it's spelled out in the declaration, it's just you legally can't own anything if you're not a legal entity. You know, there is no such thing as the Cove at Belterra or whatnot. So the Belterra Community Association owns that asset.
Right,
Yeah.
and so are you saying that it's your interpretation that this supplemental declaration gives ownership to BCA? Because I've had that document reviewed and I've spoken with the county and they're giving me different information. So if you could, because I asked them for it, if you could put the link to the file with Hayes County, because ownership of anything that's deeded and ownership is transferred. Like President is the one that was involved in the supplemental. President of Belterra Community Association and Citrus. Later, WCID, Belterra Development LLC, then became with President was.
Right.
They then took ownership, and they are the ones that transferred the ownership of the street over to WCID. And there's just some documents that are missing.
Yeah,
So-
I've shared, I think, all the documents that Marcia gave to me with all of you. And the issue always was who maintained the street. And
No,
that was not clear, so we went into some of the declaration, it says specifically that the Cove residents are responsible to maintain it.
I
So,
understand.
so that was
Yeah.
because that got,
Yeah.
that,
But there's a difference between ownership, there's a distinct difference between who owns what,
Right.
like WCID owns the street. But they're not responsible for
they don't need,
we are,
yeah.
we are.
And that's in the southern.
Financially responsible, exactly.
exactly.
And that's it, potholes or sinkholes or,
Right,
you know, bubbles and sidewalks in the street or whatever. So I'm just asking Marcia, she's, and I respect that, okay? She's telling everybody the BCA owns walls, BCA owns gates. There should be something with Hayes County that clarifies that, so.
I can double check, I
Yeah.
can't say specifically
Because
that it's
yeah,
some little
some
declaration.
things that are contrary to that, so, if we could get cleared up, because I get a lot of questions on that.
Yeah.
And the street thing, we're just not clearing it up tonight for a lot of people, you know, so many people say, well, why is WCID on that street? Well, because Belterra LLC transferred ownership of that street to them, all the background there, I'm still trying to inform myself, but.
Yeah.
Hey, I got a quick question. Sorry, I have a quick question. Sorry, Jim, just because I don't have my thing on. Marcia, have you ever been in an HOA where a water district owns a street and not commissioners own the street? I mean, to me, this just seems bogus.
It's always either been the utility district, municipal utility district, water district, or the association owns the street. If they're responsible for maintaining it, it is deeded. So that's why whenever I found out that WCID two owned the street, I said, well, why are we? Because I mean, my first thought was.
Yeah,
you guys
I
say
agree.
money.
Yeah.
And then I actually spent some time trying to run up the flagpole with the county to see if they could take the street, because when you look at the flag, that they won't touch it, no, they're like. "Nobody told me that, it's fine with myself." So looking at that can't, looking at the flag showing that, you know, unless the county takes responsibility for the street, so of course I wanted to see. Because my thought was, looking at what taxes you guys pay, you're paying the same amount of tax everybody else is, but then on top of that, you're being paid to pay an assessment to pay for the roads, and so I thought.
Yeah,
wow.
exactly. I mean, and you deal with Walt Smith, who's our commissioner here, right?
Well, that was the decision that was made by previous, board of directors, the HOA. Those documents are with the county, I've looked at it, you can see what president signed and who was responsible for making that decision at the time. And we would have to go back to those minutes when that action was took place by the community, Belterra Community Association, HOA, and see exactly what the minute said in that meeting as to why they entered into an additional agreement, which is one of the things I would like for you to attach, that says you're now responsible for this, even though WCID is taking it over. So you can transfer some things in a supplemental declaration, but they're different from ownership. They're different from deeds and, whatnot. So that's why I think to clarify, if you could provide it, I have documents that are contrary.
Yes.
So if you can pick that up. And the county's worked very cooperative with me, and I'm sure that you want you to.
Well, if you have any documents good, help save me some time too, that you could share that would help shed some light on it as
Well, I
well.
have lots of documents, as I told, Sarah, just this week, what I get from the county is anybody can go on the website,
I understand.
it's free.
Yeah, but to help Marcia's back,
Yeah.
Kathy, if you could,
I'm-
if you would tell them, give me back, share, I look like.
I'm looking for 65 this week, so if there's anything they could possibly help.
Well, I'm minimum about $80 and take care of myself for only and our disabled daughter, so I get it, but one of the reasons why I don't print out is because I was telling Sarah Beth is because one thing it costs you to print it out. But so I've just worked with the county side for so long that once you have a file number, you just go to that file number. So I usually say, I'll get you some file numbers to look at.
And that's all I need.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I just don't want
I don't think you have them, given what you put there, because the legal interpretation I've gotten is not ownership, it's, of course, I've had some experience with that myself, but I appreciate you wanting to look into it more. That's all I'm requesting, so you can get some clarity.
Sure, we can certainly be, the objective is to clarify that so everyone knows. And the big issue in talking to the marshal was, once was, WCID owns the street, why are we paying?
Yeah.
Because, a chunk of our reserves is for the street. So the good news is the streets are in good shape, but down the road, they have a light site there as well.
So Gay Doctors is now a vendor, correct?
Yes, yes.
So they are going to periodically be reviewed by the SPDAC when they're reviewing different contracts and vendor
They
contracts.
currently have, yes, Gate Doctors has a 1-year contract.
Yeah, well, that comes up again, will that standing committee be looking at that contract? I mean, I'm not saying I'm happy with it, I think that they're a good job, will that be included in the vendors? The gate repair?
Yeah, it will come up to the committee as a Gate Doctors contract is about to expire. Do you want to renew or do we want to go out to bid?
Yeah, because some people might not know that right now this PBAC, which is a standing committee with the board of directors for HOA, is currently reviewing vendor contracts and trying to determine.
Yeah,
which is gonna be the
their
big-
development process to do all of it, so.
And that's a huge
Yeah.
responsibility for any committee.
And they reported that, they had a process to do that, beats.
And thank God, good is gone. Because yeah, it's so much, we first remarked, I said, we're not concerned about the gate to the HOA going back to late 2020 and then early 2021. And that's when we learned that Paul Gooch's Secretary of State's address on Paul Gooch was a vacant lot in Vernon, Texas. So Paul Gooch is not a gay guy, he's just a guy that's some jack of all trades master of none.
So there you go.
Everything's with.
So, yeah, I think we might, that's up to you. So, I'll let you do the financial review, so, just as a preamble, when the committee was formed, Marcia was kind of sit down with the overall finances. At that point, finances between Cove and Belterra ours were kind of the same. If you look at the financial statements, we're considered section 15. You want to go look at one second. And so, we're recently approved the separation of finances, both operating and reserve. So that's done, and the reserve study is done as well. So with that, we have, Marcia was going to and put up the operating expense and capital reserve status.
These are the total assets as of August 31st, 2023. The unaudited financials operating almost $9,000 and reserve has just over $170,000. So obviously this is the snapshot. It is, you know, month by month, there's a contribution going through as Sarah pointing to the camera, but as Sarah mentioned. This is the only slide I have per se, but I know that there's been some talk about the operating expenses and the reserve accounts, and Sarah brought up about, you know, how that's funded, how much is in that account. So that we engage a professional third party reservist, it's a reserve company that comes in and evaluates all these assets of the association, as Belterra Community Association as well. So they look at right down to, you know, the chairs and the tables we're sitting on right now, all the way up to y'all's gates and operators. They assess the remaining useful life of that component so that we know how much money needs to be set aside every year towards the eventual replacement or capital repair, significant repair of that component. So that's available on the website as well. It's under the financial tab where you can take a look at the 2023 reserve study update. Now, looking at that reserve study, you will see that it doesn't say the Cove. It still says the garden homes. For those of you who've been around for a minute, you probably remember that it kind of was called the garden homes. They call those the garden homes. I'm working to change that vernacular to make sure that it's clearer, especially for those who maybe start moving into the neighborhood and run around when it's called section 15 or garden homes or whatnot. So it's going to take a little time to get through all of that. But you'll see that the components for the code are listed in that section. You don't have your own separate reserve study because, I mean, you could, it just would cost, you know, they would come out and you would have to pay for that being go directly. So right now, the Belterra Community Association funds that, so you're a kind of component of the overall bigger reserve study. But there is a section in that reserve study that shows, as of the reserve study date, when it's done, what is considered fully funded for you guys. So in the industry, we consider anything that is 70% or above to be considered healthy or low risk for special assessment. Special assessment being, I don't know if you've ever lived in an HOA before that you got a special assessment, but it's usually one large sum of money to fund a project that the association doesn't have the money at that time. So I've seen special assessments for $50. I've seen them for $5,000. Fortunately, I have no community I've ever managed has ever had a special assessment, and so that's typically frowned upon because that means you're not setting aside money appropriately for those, you know, capital repairs and replacements. So when looking at that reserve study, it does state that fully funded was about $58,000. That ain't $58,000, right? So I went back through to the beginning of the code and took a look at all the financials and tracked all the contributions every year. And it seems the developer, I assume the developer, there's still some work that needs to be done on the auditor's end because I want them to corroborate my findings because I am not an auditor. But there were some very large transfers to reserve for the code, $50,000, you know, $30,000, big bulk transfers that I'm assuming it was the developer. Usually that's what happens. I don't know definitively though where that money came from, but it was transferred to the code's reserve account. So that's where we get to, you know, this is anybody else, you know, if you're looking at your savings account at home or you've got money set aside for other repairs, it's great to have lots of money to make sure that you can replace those items. So to Ken's point about maybe we have to replace the operators, maybe we upgrade the whole box. There are funds set aside already under normal circumstances to do that at that time. But having these extra funds means that if you had to accelerate those, you absolutely could. So they're extremely solid. We just need to, I want to get that confirmed before we cut any checks there, you know, or throw that big party that Jim was talking about. I told you that jokingly. He's like, what are we gonna do? party.
Something happens to our road that money will all disappear.
No, the roads are contemplated in the reserve study as well. The roads are in there.
Yeah, the roads.
I'm just saying that if you determine that, we can.
Your roads would have to have a bond go off on them in order for us to.
Our roads, I don't see the track with the local, sorry, functions there versus other ones out there. So that's just.
Well, I just have a question. I think this might be considered that. But the council is that $175 in, because nowadays there are really having savings accounts available to where, they are collecting 4% interest.
Yes.
And that 170,000 could be that monthly, but it takes about $600 addition to it every month, which would, keep us from maybe having our monthly loss.
So we do, the money is invested, it's in, it's a money market right now, because right now we need the money market. Well, okay, so the reason for that is because we have a big question mark on top of this money. You know, we need to confirm with the auditor that it is, definitely there wasn't a mistake made or anything. Once we have that confirmation and then we determine what's going to be spent, then we can look into possibly laddering the investments or something in ways, something where it doesn't have a portion of it doesn't have to be liquid, where we can get a higher yield on it. So I don't want to tie that money up in something that.
Let me just say that these high yield savings accounts, they're not like a CD for the money's tied up. You can pull it out at any point, it's like a regular savings account.
Right.
They're different or new, they're.
Money markets tend to have higher insurance than CDs. But money markets are not guaranteed by the PIC where CDs are. So I asked Marcia about that. All of the funds.
Are protected by FDIC, but.
CDs are.
But I'm talking about why it's saving.
So we have a treasury department that keeps an eye, and keeps a finger on the pulse of all the. In fact, we just reinvested some of the Belterra Community Association funds, and we got 4.5% on one of those investments. And we, they're not at $250,000, but they watch it like a hawk to make sure you don't go any over that. So like I said, once we figure out exactly what we need from these funds, then I would be going to the treasury analyst and saying, okay, we're ready to invest these funds, give me some options, what would you recommend? And then I would bring that to the committee to say, okay, what do you want to do? And if there is an option to go with a savings account, that's the best deal, great to do that. If it is something that ends up turning that where it's not liquid, but we know that we're not going to need that money for 2 or 3 years, then great, we'll do that as well. Our goal is to get you guys as much money as possible because
Our cost maybe from going up.
Well, we're
$280 steady.
we're gonna speak to that. Here's what we should get for, but Richard, you had a question?
What is our reserve, what do we need for reserves? Because all I understand is we have the gate and the rope.
Okay, so,
Is that correct?
so on the financial.
Okay, it's been on there,
On the responsibility charter, I created a charter run by assets, because that's the issue.
Right.
And so, what you saw, Marcia put up, and that's on the website, are the assets. So the reserves for all of those assets that are listed from.
Okay, I'll look it up.
Yes,
I could.
so we have, there's some, I want to say this, I don't know exactly, but every one of those has a useful life. And so the people who do the study look at that.
That's what I understand. The whole process. I just don't.
So like it's got it's supposed to last 6 years. So if we decide, Ken says, take them out, put the new ones in, with all of those missiles. You do connect your phones.
Right, I understand.
All that stuff.
Yeah, that's not.
And then if we replace them ahead of time, we're stealing money from that fund. The good news is only 458,000 of estimated reserves needed, we've got 170.
No,
So, yeah, so we
I understand all that, but just,
Yeah.
we have two assets.
Yeah, so, no, we have, no, there was, there are that chart, so you can see how many there are. It's the stone walls,
They're over by the city, they're not over by us.
yeah, but we have, we have, so, the numbers are there. So that's why we have.
Okay.
But as Marcia said, she's never been in a good, yeah, so many excess assets, and most of it appear to be from, developers transfers over the years. So, I mean, that's the good news. So, and the money is being invested and roll over, with rate. And the effect is going forward, that we have a couple of choices with what to do with the finances. And so, we're going to state.
Well, the other thing I was talking about was, if you have this excess, if you turn against, if you have this excess fund, it becomes, what do you want to spend that money on? And there have been some ideas picked around and wanting legal to determine if those can actually, we can actually use the reserve dollars for that, because there's limitations usually. I've not gotten his opinion back on that just yet, so there'll be more information to come, but we just wanted to be very transparent with you guys about where the money is, what's going on, and where we're at and where we'd like to go.
So I met with Marcia a couple of months ago and said, okay, as the amounts will be confirmed by the auditor, to say, what could we spend that money on as a capital improvement? It's gotta be a capital improvement. So I came up with a list, I don't know, here tonight, so I studied Marcia, after Karen, there's a lot of data related. And I said, please check with the lawyer and see how much of this is legal. By Texas law, the HUA law, and our association. So as soon as we hear back from that, I can share that with the whole community, say, these are our options. Certainly one option is to do nothing, like it's we're all. An option is to
Reduce
reduce our assessments. But my experience in other communities that I look at is once you say you don't have to pay that anymore, and then you bring it back, everybody gets upset. So part of me would rather, but that's a discussion.
But it might keep it low.
Well, so what we'd like to do that at this meeting is for the committee to make a recommendation to the board, saying we'd like you to accept these financials as you receive them. Say for 2004, we'd like you to do this. And of course, that means, the reserve money is stay with this. There's no decision on that. But the issue would be an assessment. Does that change from 2004? Usually something there. And is there that operating expense to cover our operations in 2000? So you're going to see that sure. So that's the expectation for this.
Jim Roll and I have to give home.
Oh, sure.
So, I want to thank all of you guys for taking on this committee assignment. I appreciate you. I know the time and what's going into and everything, and I look forward to y'all in the meetings. I think that's a good thing. And, but I'll just in closing on the reserves thing. I talked to somebody in Twitter today that had to do a street repair in their community. Just under 150 grand, 140 something thousand dollars to one street repair.
And that's usually a total R&R down to the ABC.
Not a unique situation here. There aren't too many HOAs that have one small section that has a private street. And all of that responsibility is on those 43 homeowners to take care of that, the money that they put forward every month. So I'm good with reserve. I'm okay with what we pay. My sister was a widower. She pays just under $500 a month in HOA fees for a house half the size of mine. So, and they don't even do a backyard, they can do a front yard, and that's it. So then I appreciate you guys. We're gonna go. And I also encourage everybody to read that supplemental declaration. It's only 18 pages. And some of that is signature pages, but you'll really have a better understanding of exactly what we're responsible for. Hey, y'all take care. Good seeing y'all.
Well, I've shared. Yeah, find this.
That's on the website.
that's on the.
So for what it's worth, like what she's talking about, in 15 years for the reserve study, the road is supposed to be built and
Yes.
this next year, the legal budget is supposed to receive steel code, crack steel repairs, so there's maintenance built into it, and the largest road repair project I've done is $1 million, because the entire community was private streets, and we had to do it in sections, it took almost a full year to do it, so some of it was complete R&R, from the RFP, this is not going to be just that way.
It's been there a little while, it's like, can't be.
It is by law.
That's all kind of.
Everything else.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, so, next item on here is just, it's not really a, actionable item, but just to kind of talk to you guys about. DCA is working on a community-wide survey that hopefully will go out in the next few weeks. They're trying to get that, finalized. It is going by survey standards, typical survey standards. It's going to be a little bit easier than what we probably, it's not going to be, so only take 4 minutes of your time, but it is extremely valuable information. The board is trying to be as clear and concise, but at the same time, get that information that we need. So please take that survey. And in the future, there may be some specific surveys. I know we've already kind of beat the horse that about that this group is the one who can make decisions on behalf of the Cove residents, but you know what, there might be something where we go, like Jim mentioned, hey, do we want a block party? Do we want this? Would you like me to walk down the street and make there? I mean, I don't know. So, you know, there may be an opportunity to send us a specific survey out to you guys. Yeah.
I've got a survey proposed to. Let me just say, I'm on the strategic planning committee, so I helped develop the survey. It took me 10 minutes. And Susan took, my wife Susan took it, and it took her 12. So it's not, I mean, it's still. It is very, we think very comprehensive. The board reviewed it to say, so that I'm going to shortly. And speaking of surveys, I guess I would like to ask the committee, the last couple of years we had the gates closed at Halloween. And I had several people approach me and say, you know, we gotta have gates open, it's inside. But right now it's closed. There was a vote taken, 2 or 3 years ago, and the vote was 22 closed, 21 open. Yeah, so I guess what I'd like to ask Marcia is to send your area first, Halloween, is to send in other things. You know, I think this maybe makes sense to have a little vote. I appreciate that individual people, maybe upset, you know. Right, you can you don't turn your lights on, and we don't know how to get it, so there's no different. So, you know, people turn on lights, and it starts, there's a fixed time period, we found 6 to 8 o'clock. And so we can manipulate all of that, but I'd like to suggest to the committee that they approve.
In the past, when you can close a lot of the residents that were seeing the children went outside of our gates, sat at tables and gave up.
Yeah.
So that kind of conversation about, but
Yeah, I've done that through this, so that's possible. So I guess what we did, I think the resident vote, yeah, we'll put it out. So we'll do that as we go. And whatever the vote is, we'll do that. And the option is, I think the community in towns, golf cart meets, we're out at the east end on the grass and giving out candy or about. So that's always an option. No, and whoever wants to about here to fight the solid. That's
on the aspect of the game.
outside.
And I'll be sure to say one more.
Right. We're always do. Maybe. Believe it.
So this is agenda item. So on this agenda, we'd like to say what the current operating and reserve budget is for 2024. Ms. Marshall put it out. We could just recommend to the board that they approve this budget. We can't approve it, we could recommend that they. So with that,
Sure, so you guys, your budget's small, so I put it all on the slide here, so we do, for the code, we do two budgets, one for operating and one for reserve. You'll see the reserve is even leaner, but we just like to make sure everything is all tidy. So as it stands, the proposed operating budget is, the revenue comes from your assessments, so 43 lots paying $218 a month is $112,488 a year. Under the expenses, we are looking at budgeting $6,740 for gate maintenance. This is down from what was budgeted this year because basically I took every line item that is a known line item. This goes for the preventative maintenance contract that's quarterly, contingency for quarterly repairs, so minor stuff that should come up, as well as the $43 a month for the service for the door key service, that service that for the call, or the difference that actually operates the gate. Under landscaping, $84,120 annually. That is the current landscaping maintenance contract. Land Care has indicated they will not be putting in an increase for next year, so that's the same amount.
Yearly contract.
It's an annual contract, yeah, evergreen renews, yeah. Since we're talking about that, we mentioned that the board of directors, and I don't know exactly where I'm at with this, but at the last actual meeting on August 24th, they gave me the direction to go out to bid on landscaping, and it was acknowledged that the Cove and Wellington generally are happy with their service, so you guys may not want to go out to bid on that, so we are looking at that separately. So in doing the RFP, there's an RFP for retreat behind you guys, as well as the rec center review. So that's one contract, and then we do go out to bid for the other service, which is a different level of service anyway. This is more commercial, kind of the low and go, and also a little more marketing. And that's the way it's gathered in this. Yeah.
I have, but I get spotty response.
Right, if you guys, Lane Care's always historically liked for you guys to just report things, because some people say, no, don't vulture, don't do the free emergence, they have some particular, requests for their particular home. Lucas has always been very open to just communicate with me directly, but if you have any issues, I need to know about it, so that I can report that to the board and say, because like I said, the general consensus is you guys have been happy with Lane Care. But I will, and if you're confused, I know that Jim and I'm in a conversation, he's like, no, it's Aristu, it's not Lucas, that's the same person. So Lucas, his first name is Aristu, and Ron is his middle name. Lucas is actually his last name. He's from Brazil, so people get his name confused all the time. So just I'll call him Lucas.
That's separate irrigation contracts.
It does.
Yeah, higher there.
Please go, please go.
Yeah, you only have certain times.
All right.
So unfortunately, next week I have a lunch with Lucas, and Lucas's replacement too. Because Lucas, they're moving Lucas to a different region within Austin. I know, I was like, what? No, this week. So I spoke out the new guy and set the expectation.
So this is not.
That's right, we will get you guys out once that's all, because I asked him, I said, what kind of transition are we looking at here? So I said, let me meet him first, and then we'll send a communication to everybody, letting him know his contact information, so.
What's the contract status for that retreat area?
So I think I was about to bring that up there. It has been very difficult to find kind of a guy who will just come in and shred and mow that meets our insurance requirements as well. But I'm somebody come take a look at it today, and I'm expecting the quotes tomorrow. If it's under my approval authority that's in our contract, our management contract, I will get him on ASAP. If it's not, I will email the board of directors to get that approval. The issue was that we did have a proposal for Lane Care, but the board thought it was too expensive. It was $6,000 something to mow that open, sort of open space. There's trees on it as well. I think that may have been what caused the cost to be a little bit more. But it's just very expensive. So the board said, no, let's get some alternative bids for it.
So how many bids are you gonna get? Get free bids? I mean,
I've got another guy coming out to give another bid. I was able to find 2 people.
Okay, so you got 2 bids. Is there still another bid required where you can let it?
No.
So you're gonna decide between 2 people and get it done.
We'll get it done, yes. They don't disagree that it needs to be done, it's just, it was hard for them to swallow spending $6,500 to. Go down some grass.
We're just gonna do that about. That's what I said, like, this is, do something.
Is, the landscape up for bids, or, I mean, we're we already gave another contract or something, I mean,
We've not signed a contract yet with Belterra for 2024, that's what I was just explaining.
are we going for bids, I guess, my question is, I'm not one of them that is very happy with those.
Okay.
Relative to the experience I've had at different places. There. Without the one guy who I go to all the time, who's the field guy.
Yeah.
I would not have good service at all.
So the short answer is yes, because the last direction I got from the board was we're going out to bid on landscaping. So,
Okay, and it's not Lucas either that I go to for any service.
So usually we talk about. It's sugar.
Rally is the man, but he gets everything done.
And I think so, Risco, we talked to Risco, Field, well, that's what, he wants to be done Wednesday, and talk to Risco. Say, hey, you know, and sometimes it's out of time, but we should speak.
Yeah, but I have to give it 10 or 20.
Yeah, but that, yeah.
you're not really going.
I am.
No, no, he's not. You do what?
I am. Why?
That's prohibited. They're not supposed to be taking.
They didn't ask
They
for
can
it.
do it.
They didn't ask for it. I had contractors, or I might give them some beer or two. But what's the big deal?
Okay, let's pretend.
So what the answer is, right here, yeah, and then go through the speed process as well.
Oh, my question is,
Diego on the
you're gonna get some other things.
Diego on feedback is reviewing the RFP. Once the RFP goes out, it'll go straight to.
Right.
Okay, so electricity, $960 a year, you have 2 electrical meters that provide power to the gates, pretty simple there. And then we got our transfer to reserve amount of $20,668. So as this proposed budget sits, that's still the same amount, change per month, $218 for your monthly assessment.
Is that 20,000 and the 270 or 170 or the other okay?
So that's because it's not in our 170.
Also, we got 190.
That we did addition to. That 170 was the dollar amount in the reserve as of August 31st of this year. This is proposed contributions for 2024.
So got 200,000 bucks.
20,000.
No, 20 and 170.
So over the reserve side, that $20,668 going into reserves. You saw the negative number on the operating, because we're moving it from operating over to reserves. And then the expenses per the reserve study, we're supposed to do an asphalt seal repair and then restriping, if you guys have stripes on the road, at $11,250. So that is what's planned for 2024. And I'm already envisioning some difficulty.
But you assess that before you do it. Somebody assess it before they go and do the asphalt repair, because I don't know what's wrong with the roads, actually, they're.
That's why I'll see you there every so often.
Yeah, that's this is part of the maintenance.
Yeah.
So as the budget is presented. If anyone on the committee would like to make a motion to accept the budget as. Let me think about my wording here, to request that the board of directors for the Belterra Community Association adopt the proposed reserve and operating budgets as presented. Okay,
Okay.
can I have a second?
I approve. Sorry.
All right.
I'm still over here listening between my 3 nephews, man. We're all good.
You're not, you can't. Oh.
I don't know, man. Y'all did.
Yeah, so,
Steve, second.
Ellen.
Yeah, for discussion.
And now, everything said, very Any discussion on reserve account, but. Steve?
My question just on the repair of the road. Is that something that's going to happen, or is that something that an assessment is going to be made in 2024?
Well, you got.
Yes, evaluation to assessment.
Well, you say that's what I think. That's right. Yes.
Somebody's going to make an evaluation that money needs to be expended for repairs, or whether that road is still standard.
I don't know.
Hey, can I-
That, you know.
The answer to that is just because it's in the reserve study, doesn't mean necessarily you absolutely have to do it. So yes, we would, as part of, my to-do list for 2024, I'll take all of the reserve expenses that are planned, we'll have it, some of them are gonna be clearer than others, like for example, the pool day. I don't need to go out and look at that thing, I know it needs to be written down, and it's in the reserve study to do for next year, so I'll just get bids for that. But this may be something we have an asphalt company come out, take a look at, they may have lined up, we can go 2 years on this, or let's get it done now. I will tell you, something like this being preventative, if you have the money for it, it's already earmarked, just stay on course, stay on the plan, and just get it done, and then you're preserving that asset's longevity and its life expectancy.
And is this for a total new asphalt cover for the entire street?
Now, this is where they just spread out lots of.
So this is still already back to.
Yeah.
There's a pothole, there's a pothole. So it's just a pure maintenance spot.
Yeah.
You don't have to fill the fall.
Yeah.
It is a different creation, because when you spray that stuff on, it needs to be driven on for a while, otherwise your driveways are gonna get, so please be patient.
Yeah.
Don't hear that. It gets to be a mess, so.
Is there any other discussion on the budget
That's it.
proposal
I'll bring the committee.
from the committee?
Okay. Leave it covered.
Okay, all in favor of approving this recommended proposal to the HOA board? Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So very unanimously, and Larry is not here. Okay.
All right, now we get to the open forum part.
Okay, so listen, okay, do any of you have any other questions or concerns that you'd like us to address? Are there any new issues? Because we had a list of about 6 or 7 issues. And I think the WCIP ones that we talked about a lot tonight are the 2 old ones. So are there any new issues that anybody?
No, it came to my mind when you're looking at these roads, stuff. If I consider running a sweet spring down the road every now and then, because they get pretty bad, like sand, park driving and all that crap.
Yeah, it looks better than it.
Well, then I think.
They done that before.
So. To make a street sweeper be done, periodically.
Yeah. I'm saying, I don't think
It's that was on when we first moved in, but then we haven't seen.
Yeah, and they typically do, especially when homes are under construction.
Yeah.
But if you guys want to do once a month street sweeping or something, we can.
It's maybe quarterly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Hey, I'm
there's
gonna sign
people-
off. Thank you for all you do, y'all.
That's it. She's leaving.
Okay.
Ah.
So, quarterly. Yeah, because people have contractors that they, do certain landscape stuff, and they've done something. It takes,
Mhm.
doing the things and watching the river.
Yeah, we're not gonna rain.
Any other new issues that you'd like?
I'm tired of the armadillos. Yeah. And now there is no. I was constant in my. Roland cut two the other day. Huh? Roland cut two. Yeah. Well, you take armadillo, huh? You take the. Where? I don't know.
I was trying to find a lot of confidence. Talk about possibilities. He's kind of good, even about his yard, is way it is a challenge that's based on coyote difference. Oh, it's just, I don't know, but.
So they did a whole. You know, and then.
He's trying to vinegar, much pepper, and he told me that. He said that's what with the coyote yard.
There's a question on when did the sprinkler system go
Yeah,
out?
I'm saying in Greenbelt area. It went off 4 or 5 months ago, right when.
I emailed, I sent this email out to all of you, I asked Samantha about that, and she says, they're regularly telling me to go off, I saw them going off around the mailbox the other day. She said, all the Greenbelt areas is sprinkled. She said it's on, had a timer system, and you know, sometimes it's 2 in the morning, so it's not on a regular basis, but they do go off and ask about the green spaces around there, and see what she says. They do go off, but she's done what the schedule is.
They have not in our, behind our house in, since April.
Okay, let me explain.
Did you? It was it was, and we hear it night go off in the middle of the night, and it has not gone off in the night, and I called WCID. And they go, we'll check on it, but then if these.
I'll email
Last
that.
time I saw it, it was like 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Well, then he had by the mailbox for 12 hours.
That's what, well, let me ask. See what. Any other questions?
No.
There's some food left, water, got something on the way out? You got that dinner yet? Okay, so our meeting officially adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Nice job.